or felt my life was coming to a crashing end when I was rear-ended the day before my wedding. Or so I thought. But instead of a fiery and instantaneous combustible crash, it was actually the beginning of a very slow crumbling of an extremely automatic and unconscious life. So let me get you caught up on the last 5 years, which were all spent in Dallas, Texas, by the way. I had a cancer scare. I had surgery. I fell in love. I got engaged. I learned a colleague and a friend was murdered. And then I quit the job that I had started my career in, a career I had craved, that I had done for 17 years. I walked away from that career and walked down the aisle and got married. And then divorced. And that's just 5 years. There's a lot of juice in that, but what I really want to impress upon you today is that I had to kind of kick the lid off the box that I was in. I had to figure out how to stretch myself beyond this unconscious living. Because let's face it, at some point, the experience of our life is not the life we want to experience. So I'm going to talk about the career for a second, because I think almost everybody can relate to having a career. I had access to just about anyone. I could put myself on TV whenever I wanted to. We had a camera in the control room. About 7 or 8 Emmy nominations and 2 Emmy Awards at home. And I made a substantial amount of money. But when it came time to go to work, I would cry. I cried at first because I was working overnight hours, and who wouldn't cry when they have to go to work when everyone else is sleeping? But then I cried because my friend died. I mean, she didn't just die, she was murdered. And I had to go to work that night, to work overnight after I had learned about her death, and produce the show that she would have been a part of without her. And I knew then that I couldn't do this anymore. About a month later, I was sitting in the newsroom at about 1 o'clock in the morning when her autopsy report came in the email. I didn't know it was hers until I got to the end. And I thought, how in the world am I supposed to go and pick out flowers for my wedding after reading that, let alone doing my job? So I had to figure out what the hell is it that I want. So I left that career behind. Got married, started working in public relations, and then I got fired. And then I got depressed. And I tried and I strived to find work, to prove myself to be valuable in my home, and to save what was becoming a very slow, crumbling, troubled marriage. And this is how my story relates to you. The 5 ways to stretch yourself is the process of which, or by which, I'm standing here today. I would not be standing here or doing what I'm doing now if I didn't go through these things. Now, it's not like the truth, it's kind of invented as I've looked back on the last, 18 months of my life. So that first thing is ask yourself, what do I want? What is it that you want? And in fact, I would challenge you to even write down the first thing that comes to your mind. And I don't care how silly it is. You could say, I really want a hamburger right now. But I had one for lunch, so I don't. But it could also be something like freedom or success or joy. And then I probe yourself a little bit deeper and be like, well, what is it that I want if time didn't matter, and if money didn't matter, if I didn't need a paycheck? I don't know what you're going to write down. I didn't know what I was going to write down either. I certainly did not write down become a coach. This is all kind of serendipitous. And what I think of when I think about what is it that you want, it actually goes back to some of the conversations that we've had earlier today about being a child. Children are the best expressioners, if I can invent that word, of infinite possibility. They are the ones who are able to see beyond whatever it is that we see we can do. Because so many times over our lives we hear the word no, that we end up putting ourselves in that box that I had to kick the lid off of. So if you need some inspiration, get around a child, I'm telling you. Number 2, consider, is this thing that you want to do a stress or a stretch? There's 2 ways to think about it, and I usually just think of a rubber band, because, if you pull on a rubber band, it's stretchy, right? But if you pull too hard, it snaps, it breaks. The thing is, whatever it is that you do, it will be beneficial if it stretches you. Just like a workout, you can't build muscle if you don't increase your weights or your reps. And then the third thing is to decide, well, what's the first thing I can do right now, today, to make this possible? And my secret sauce to that, and it should be no surprise since I was a news producer for 17 years, is to make a plan. Otherwise, you're just kind of wandering around aimlessly. So figure out what the plan is, and that is the kind of work I do with my clients, is some planning. And then the 4th thing is to discover, am I committed? Because without commitment, your goals and dreams and deepest desires remain just that. Goals and dreams and your deepest desires. I invite you to get curious about what it is you're committed to. If it's not a hell yes, then what in the world will make it so? I wouldn't be standing up here on the stage if it wasn't a hell yes, because I'm completely scared of public speaking, so it was a hell yes. And I think the 5th thing, and it is the most important thing in my opinion, no matter whatever it is you do in life, and that's to get support. And getting support looks like finding someone who can hold you accountable when you aren't quite sure what you should do next, or when you know what you should do and you're not doing it, or who can be there with you and stand with you in case you forget what it is you desire, what it is you deeply, deeply want. And to kind of wrap it all in together, I was once a small child too. I'm still kind of small, short. The very first thing I wanted to do when I was little was to be a meteorologist. and then a construction worker. But then I decided I wanted to be a journalist. I didn't know the meaning of the word no, because my father was a newspaper editor and took me to the newspaper newsroom all the time. But it was when I got older that I realized that I was the one who had given myself so much no. No, I can't do this. No, I don't know what I want. No, I can't decide. No, I'm not committed. And no, I'm not going to ask for help because that makes me weak. But I undid all of that probably just in the last 18 months. And now I'm here. So I want to end by asking you all, what do you want? And what's the first thing that you can do today to take action, to move what it is you want forward? My name is Annie Petersen, and I am a coach.